started in 1991 that had a long history of being held in Atlanta, Georgia. This year, however, it has been moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and coincidentally was going on at the same time as the FTMFitCon. It was from September 29th to October 3rd. If you would like more information on the Southern Comfort Conference or to register for next year's event, you can go to southerncomfortconference.org. Now, back to JB.
And what I like about this one is that it's like a little bit of everybody, like there's all age groups, and because there is a bit of an ageism in the trans community and the queer community, and as somebody who's coming out in my 40s, I don't have a lot in common with the 20-year-olds or the 25-year-olds, and 17 is awesome, and I'm so glad that the world has changed, that at 17 that kid has the option to transition and has a welcoming family, but my issues are different. And so I feel like some of those have been more addressed here than I've heard that they've been, in other conferences, just from experience. And so I'm hoping that this one kind of grows and flourishes, and as it does, it keeps that kind of diverse down home, like it's culturally diverse, which is amazing. More culturally diverse than I expected it to be. Queer conferences tend to be white. Period. I mean, like, I've been to create
types and queer cis.
Right, exactly. So what I like about this is that it's very outside of the box of all of that, and I kind of hope that I'm curious to come next year and hope that it, stays that way.
Yeah, I think that a conversation that I was having actually yesterday about this conference from the first day was that one of the things that I liked about it was that in one session I was in kind of a lecturing type of role, but then in another session I was in a learning type of role, that it kind of addresses needs from all different levels of where you are in whatever your personal path of your transition is. And I found that extremely helpful because I've been to a lot of conferences where we really focus on the folks who need the most help, which are the folks that are just starting out, but we kind of forget about the folks that have been in it for, 10 years or whatever the case.
And there are different issues at that point, right? Like, at 10 years, like, I was talking to another guy who was like, I never had bottom surgery, I never had a hysterectomy because I never thought I was going to, but now 10 years in, I'm having these issues and my doctor's telling me to start documenting them. And as somebody who's early in my transition, I'm like, okay, well, that's something good to know because nobody's talked about that.
Right.
Like, nobody talks about what happens 10 years in, which is, again, why I liked your session, which was like, it's not all about the start. It's what happens. What's the rest of your life look like? Like, what are things that we need to think about? It's, and I think it's something that's happening with the queer community too, is that like with the loss of queer spaces, we used to have, and at the risk of sounding like an old fart, we used to have gay bars. And you would go to the gay bars and the old people would be there with the young people and you would learn from the old people. And there was a sense of history and a sense of passing on, and there was a sense of mentoring and, helping that next generation. And I don't feel like, the queer community has lost that. Because bars have just started to disappear and people are starting to go mainstream and we're not siloing off as much as we used to, and so you don't have that opportunity as much. And I feel like, especially trans, like, I've gotten so much knowledge from friends who have transitioned before me that I really, like, I don't know how to, that's the community I'd like to build. It's like, how do we, and it's not an age thing because we all transition at different points in life. So it's like, how do we think about not just helping people make the decision to transition and answer the questions about how do you change your name, how do you change your markers, how do you get on T, what surgeries do you need to have? Like, it's the questions of what happens later. Like, how do you talk to your kids? About who dad is. Like, we're having that conversation right now. Like, we're talking about having kids in a year. It's like, I am not one to be self. I'm never going to be, to me, it's about visibility and it's about changing things. And I lived as a masculine female for 40 years. Professionally, I can't erase that. Personally, I can't erase that. I don't want to erase that. But how do we talk to our kids in such a way that doesn't confuse them that dad is dad, but dad, and if I have a boy, doesn't look like you.
Exactly.
So it's like those kinds of conversations need to happen, and I would love to see family and parenting topics added to conferences like this. I think that the other thing is that we need to make it more comfortable. I think a community that is untapped is the ally community and the partner community of the trans world. My partner went to the Trans Ally. She came to the conference today to go to the Trans Ally one. She was the only cis person in there. it's hard. You know, they're, like we talked about yesterday, they're looking for as much community as we are because they're dealing with issues from society and from other people that are in relation to us. And so it's like, where's their community? Where's their support system? And we could bring that here to some degree, but does it water? Does it not? Like, some people want families, some people don't. Some people have partners, some people don't. Like, it's how do we manage that? But, you know, that's something to.
Yeah, I think that Neo is definitely trying to get this conference to grow. I think that he would like to see it double or triple its size next year, and I think that part of the way that we can help support that as part of the community that have been here before is not only to get the word out about it next year, but also like there's this kind of, and not all conferences, but there's this kind of conference thought that the first year you attend, and maybe the second year you attend, the second or third year you should be presenting. Right. So because the more voices there are, there are more people that it applies to, but we also have to have more people attending in order to fill those spots anyway.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a self-fulfilling. Yeah. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anybody who's ever organized a conference knows that. You know, and I've you know, academic panels forever, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's true. Like, I would love to see this grow, and I mean, I think it's a great conference, and I think it's God knows it's convenient.
Yeah. It's definitely convenient for those of us in the South that can't always go up to Philly, or to some other place,
or to Seattle for Gender Odyssey every year.
And now that Southern Comfort has left Atlanta,
we need to fill that gap.
Right. There is an organization that, in order to fill that gap, has started a group, not a group, but an event called the Peach State Conference, and it is this October here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to fill that space. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to say?
I think this is awesome.
My name's Owen S. It's OWENS.
Cool. And where do you live?
Berkeley, California.
Cool. And I assume you flew and not drove?
Yeah.
Was it a good flight?
I flew.
That's good.
It was all right. It was direct.
Okay, so how do you identify and what pronouns do you use?
Male pronouns.
Great. So is this your first year or second year at FTMFitCon?
First year.
Awesome. And why do you feel like conferences like these are important?
Well, I think this specific conference is special. I've noticed a certain vibe to it where it's real affirming, more so than other conferences that I've been to. And it's affirming not only about, you know, our whole selves and our health and things like that, but specifically around fitness, where I think that trans people, perhaps, or even queer people, are not necessarily empowered to pursue fitness goals. I mean, trans people, because it's a body thing, the empowerment is not like built into our culture for someone to also pursue, you know, challenging goals like bodybuilding is. It seemed really far outside of something that was accessible to me, and this is a place where that's not just okay, but it's like celebrated and affirmed. And so those pursuits of trying to have a more typically athletic body, which does come from culture, you know, like comes from, you know, typical ideas of masculinity per se. I could see how in maybe some trans spaces that would be looked down upon as like trying to conform to something that, you know, that's not innate to humanity or whatever. It's like a cultural code, but that does not mean that I don't still want that for myself. Like, I still want an aesthetic appearance that, yeah, so it relates back to cultural conditioning. But I still want that because I find it hot. I'll feel really confident if I have, you know, what I feel to be like the best I can achieve with the work that I can put into it. And so it's nice to be in a space where somebody isn't going to kind of look at you askance for choosing to pursue something that's like, you know, fraught with you know, cultural codes. That I can pursue it for my reasons and in my own way, and I can sort of define my own measures of success. All of that is open to me, and but it was workshop after workshop here, I've run across that attitude or that positive attitude of like, you define what is your ultimate goal, or you define your own measures of success.
Awesome. What do you hope to gain from this weekend's events?
I feel like I've already gained it. I was hoping I would have the confidence to participate in the bodybuilding competition. I didn't really expect that I would, but I hoped that I would eventually. I thought coming here I would become familiar with the structure of that type of competition, and maybe down the road pursue that. But I was fortunate enough to be in the bodybuilding posing workshop, and it just felt like the right time to stand up, even though there were cameras in the room that day. Like, not every workshop has had cameras, but the very first workshop I attended had many big video cameras. So it felt risky. I live essentially non-disclosing is a word I was reminded of. I think that fits better with my way of living. And so for me, jumping into stuff like that is a risk. It's more of an internal risk. I don't really feel like it that there's an external risk like from jobs or from where I live, because where I live is very accepting, my job's very accepting, but still they don't know. So but I kind of unpacked some of that a little. My decisions around disclosure, I kind of unpacked why I have those feelings, and I was able to affirm that that's okay, like that I can disclose when I feel called to, and those other times I'm conserving energy for those times when I'm called. So that's an okay choice to make. It's not like I'm selling anybody out, by kind of not disclosing. So now that I understand a little better where I'm coming from, like why I'm doing it, and then I feel like I can play more with the boundaries of when I'm doing that. So I can choose to participate in something that it might be very public, that they're making a movie or an actual, feature film based on the bodybuilding competition or including it. And so there's an inevitability that someone will see that movie.
Right.
Maybe someone I know. Maybe they'll approach me about it. Who cares? If someone's gone to the trouble of watching a trans film, more power to them. If they want to talk to me about it, all right. I'll probably just be like, yeah, that's no big deal. It's a thing I do. I do bodybuilding competitions. Now I do that now.
It's my thing. So, what session or event have you enjoyed the most? Or if it hasn't happened yet, which session or event are you looking forward to the most?
Well, tonight's competition is going to be pretty interesting. I got a little experience on stage this morning during the prejudging. I found that totally different parts of it were scary than what I thought. I thought I was going to be obsessing about my body or my skin or my weight, and it turned out that I was more connected with the actual task that I was set to up there, which is, keep everything tight, smile. I was hearing the coaching, and I wasn't sure that I was meeting all those expectations, but I at least knew what I was supposed to be doing, and I was focusing on that, and I wasn't getting down on myself for not being ready for the competition or not being prepared, by practice or various things. Like, things that I would have expected to be held back by were not an issue. Until the moment where I was on the stage by myself, and I was totally not prepared for that. And so I think I'll be more prepared tonight because I got a little coaching in between. And I feel so much more confident now, just with a little bit of coaching and positive feedback from one of the judges. I feel ready, much more ready for this evening. And I did a little more practicing and a little more tanning, and I'm ready to go.
Cool.
So excited.
Were there any... So, I think that one of the things that you and I have talked about, both inside and outside some of the sessions, is that one of the great things about this conference is it isn't just about the physical fitness. It's also about emotional fitness and mental fitness and things like that. And we were in a couple of different sessions in the same room. But was there anything, any one nugget that was not necessarily directly physical that you're going to take from this conference that you felt like was really, whether it was an aha moment of God, I was just feeling like that the other day, or like, oh, I never really thought about that, or that's something that I need to incorporate in my life. Did you have any of those moments this weekend?